Gradually the lights taking over here at the Cariappa Parade Ground as we observe the Prime Minister's NCC Rally 2023. This is the musical band. Birla Balika Vidyapeeth Pilani, Scindia School Gwalior, Sainik School Kapurthala, Sainik School Gorakhal और इस म्यूजिकल बैंड का नेतृत्व कर रहे हैं सीनियर अंडर ऑफिसर सुवेक्षा गुप्ता. कदम कदम बढ़ाए जा, खुशी के गीत गाए जा. And the audience are now going to witness something real special. The flagging in of the National Cadet Corps Unity Flame Run. A Unity Flame Run was flagged off from Kanyakumari on the 21st of November. And you can see the mashal being brought closer to the saluting dais. The Unity Flame Run covered a distance of 300 kilometers from Kanyakumari, that's the southern part of India, to Delhi, carried by Colonel Krishan Singh Badwar of UP Directorate. Another flame was flagged off from Dibrugarh, which is the eastern part of India, on the 2nd of January 2022. The flame escorted by Subedar Karamjit Singh of Northeastern Directorate merged with the Unity Flame at Agra on the 15th of January 2022 after a journey of 2,113 kilometers. Applauded by the Prime Minister and Director General NCC. एकता की ये लौ कन्याकुमारी से शुरू हुई और भारत के विभिन्न राज्यों से, क्षेत्रों से होती हुई आज दिल्ली पहुंच गई है. और उस रास्ते में बहुत से लोग एकता की इस लौ में जुड़े, बहुत से मोटिवेशनल सेशंस भी हुए, एनसीसी के बारे में जागृति बढ़ाई गई और जिन मूल्यों को एनसीसी का कैडेट दर्शाता है उन्हें जनता तक पहुंचाया गया, जिसमें शामिल हैं एकता, अनुशासन, वीरता, विश्वास, देशभक्ति. As we see on the dais, General Anil Chaudhary, Chief of Defence Staff, General Manoj Pandey there, Chief of Army Staff, Admiral R. Hari Kumar, Chief of the Naval Staff, and Air Chief Marshal Vivek Ram Chaudhary, Chief of the Air Staff, all watching along with the Prime Minister and Director General NCC.
You know, what is it that is going around and who's funding it, who's behind it? And again, I must say that I want to tell my student friends that what is screened and not screened in a university campus depends on the university administration. The JNU administration put out an advisory. Mm-hmm. At your own peril, you will defy the administration because they can take action against you. So It's not worth it. In fact, I don't tell any student not to see anything. If you want to see the film, see it in your own room. It's not banned as far as I know. Mm-hmm. If you want to see it on your phone or whatever laptop, go and see it. Make up your own mind. But to join this kind of insidious seeming protest, it's not even a protest,
Okay.
is going to jeopardize their future, I believe, and their career.
So,
And they should not be, I think, seduced by the appeal of such propaganda in the first place.
Sanjay Jha, we've seen this in 2015 when the JNU protests happened. We've seen this again in 2020 when the anti-CAA protests essentially started from these campuses and then spread to Shaheen Bagh. Every time this has happened, it has helped Mr. Modi and rally his base. It has riled up his base. A lot of his supporters feel that this is some kind of vested propaganda. This is some kind of a conspiracy. There are people out there who are trying to get him, and it has helped him electorally. You look at the election victories in those years, it has always overwhelmingly been in favor of the BJP. Do you reckon that the fact that this story, and this is what I find curious again, there's so much of a storm in some of these campuses where left-back unions are very active, whereas the rest of the country doesn't seem to particularly care about this documentary. And every time this has happened, it's only helped polarize in a way that it helps the BJP electorally.
Zaka, I want to make 2 points here. Number one, I disagree with the previous speaker. I think universities and colleges worldwide are actually, they stand for an ideological diversity. Some of them may be more liberal, some of them may be, very woke. Others may even be conservative. It all depends. I mean, there are a lot of people who believe that certain, colleges and institutions are usually, most of the time, more freedom-loving, more revolutionary in their thinking. And that is the way it has been through history. Some of the biggest protests in the world against repressive governments have started in universities. The second point is very, very important that you raised about the fact that Mr. Modi benefits electorally from, every time the Gujarat 2002 riots are talked about, where the very Supreme Court, the BJP courts very often refer to Mr. Modi and his Gujarat government as Emperor Nero, which I believe is a severe indictment of their, political performance at that point of time. But let me give you an example here. I have been a Congress supporter. I continue to be one. 1984 Sikh riots, in my opinion, were heinous. They were horrific. And it was, in my opinion, something that all of us as Indians should hold our heads down in shame.
Yeah.
You know what? The Congress won general elections thereafter. Not just after in 1984, the Congress won again and again. And I can tell you the Congress formed a government in Punjab thereafter. Dr. Manmohan Singh became the Prime Minister. Yet, if today the BJP or any TV anchor or anybody for that matter were to be critical of what happened in 1984 Sikh riots, absolutely justified. Mr. Modi can win 10 elections for all I care. But the truth of life, Zaka, is that what happened in Gujarat was a genocide. It was a state-sponsored pogrom. Supreme Court called Nero. What did the Supreme Court mean? And you can have one Supreme Court verdict on the conspiracy case saying that there's no case against him, but that does not mean that innocent people did not die. It did not mean that Babu Bajrangi and Maya Kodnani were not convicted of brutal murders under the watch of the Chief Minister.
So one second. There are two parts to this. Is your case, and when I say you, I don't mean you individually, Sanjay Jha, but the case against the then Gujarat Chief Minister, is it that he looked the other way while the riots were happening, or was there a conspiracy? Because clearly the conspiracy part has been thrown out by the Supreme Court, right? That is the Supreme Court verdict as it stands as of last year. I don't want to go into the elaborate details of it. But I don't think what Mr. Modi was accused of for the last 20 years was just merely failing law and order, or, to put it even more crudely, incompetence at the time that the riots happened. What he was accused of by everyone, including the Congress party, was connivance in the riots. And that, I think, the 2022 Supreme Court verdict completely throws out the window. But let me go to Abhijit Majumdar, and he wrote this, I think, for News18.com as well as for First Post, that he believes that if the government wanted to, and many have been arguing this as well, including the likes of a former Ministry External Affairs Secretary, Mr. Kaju, that the government should have just ignored this. This is a G20 year. You expect these kind of attacks. You don't have to swat a fly every time a fly comes past you. But you believe, Abhijit, that the government is doing this because it suits them politically, and every time, as I outlined in 2015 and 2020, numerous instances where such potentially polarizing issues came up, and it ultimately helped the BJP and helped Mr. Modi electorally. So you believe that this is being actively kept because the government also somewhere politically benefits. The only thing that's sort of jarring for me is this is a G20 year. This is the year when India is supposed to, it's like a coming out party. India showing confidence, India showing power, it's projecting power. Doesn't this entire episode betray nervousness?
This was like a full-toss Zaka bolt to the BJP and the Modi government. Maybe unintentional.
A very warm welcome to World 360. I'm Akanksha Swaroop. The brutal murder of George Floyd in May 2020 sparked the Black Lives Matter movement in the United States. 3 years on, and the United States continues to grapple with police brutality as 29-year-old Tyre Nichols lost his life to yet another shocking incident that bears similarities to George Floyd's killing. Ukraine is all set to receive the much-coveted German Leopard 2 and American Abrams tanks. What could this mean for the war in Ukraine? We'll deep dive into our top stories, but first up are the headlines. Massive protests erupt in Memphis, Tennessee and New York City in response to the brutal killing of a young African-American, Tyre Nichols. This after the city of Memphis released footage showing Nichols being mercilessly beaten up by 5 police officers, all of whom are black. Germany to send Leopard 2 tanks to Ukraine. The decision arrives soon after US President Joe Biden announced that the United States will provide Ukraine with M1 Abrams tanks. Could this mark a big change in Ukraine's defense? India extends an invitation to Pakistan for the SCO foreign ministers meet in May. Soon after, India sought modification from Pakistan on the Indus Water Treaty. And a Palestinian terrorist shoots 7 dead at an East Jerusalem synagogue in a shocking attack of this kind for years. The German Leopard 2 and American M1 Abrams could well be game changers for Ukraine's battlefield. This week, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz eventually decided to deliver the Leopard 2 tanks to Ukraine. Germany and the United States' decision marks a major shift in policy by Ukraine's Western allies. Now remember, Germany's decision arrives soon after the Biden administration in the United States decided to send their M1 Abrams to Ukraine. The news was significant, especially for Germany. The country had indicated earlier that it would only send Leopard tanks if the US also agreed to send its own.
Today, I'm announcing that the United States will be sending 31 Abrams tanks to Ukraine, the equivalent of 1 Ukrainian battalion. Secretary Austin has recommended this step because it will enhance the Ukraine's capacity to defend its territory and achieve its strategic objectives. Together with our allies and partners, we've sent more than 3,000 armored vehicles, more than 8,000 artillery systems, more than 2 million rounds of artillery ammunition, and more than 50 advanced multi-launch rocket systems, anti-ship and air defense systems, all to help counter Ukraine's brutal aggression that's happening because of Russia.
Needless to say, the move will equip Kiev with a modern and powerful military vehicle. But it arrives after much resistance by Germany, despite growing Western pressure to provide the tanks owned by them. The German Chancellor has been wary of moves that could spur Russia to escalate the war further. Scholz views the action as a risk of the NATO alliance being drawn into the conflict in Ukraine. But Poland raised the stakes even before Germany. This as Warsaw announced its decision to send the Leopard 2 tanks to Kiev. Now you'd want to ask, why was Germany's decision so crucial for other Western nations regarding the Leopard tanks? That's because Germany is heavily in control of its export and re-export.
Auch Kampfpanzer zur Verfügung stellen vom Typ Leopard 2.
We will also supply Leopard 2 battle tanks to Ukraine. That's the result of renewed intense consultations with our allies and international partners. I would like to underline that it was right that we did not let ourselves be driven and that we instead counted and will continue to count on close cooperation for such an issue. That's why we always have to make very clear with everything we do what is necessary and possible to support Ukraine, but that at the same time we avoid an escalation between Russia and NATO.
Und deshalb müssen wir bei allem, was wir
Sporo rozmawiamy o czołgach.
It is really good that the decision was made by the German government on supporting Ukraine with Leopard 2 tanks. Tanks are not there to drive in a parade. Tanks are produced to support those who defend their freedom and sovereignty. I'm grateful to the German government that we managed to convince our Western partners to widen support with modern military equipment from the German Federal Republic. It is a collection of different activities that we carry out in this critical moment in Europe's history. I believe that we can win together and we will develop without these terrible disasters, a terrible tragedy caused by Moscow, caused by Russia.
Tematem zakazanym 6 miesięcy temu.
Now, at the same time, it's important to note that defense experts are divided on how effective Germany's Leopard 2 and the US M1 Abrams will be against Russian forces. The primary challenge, as pointed by defense experts, is the timeline from announcement to the point of deployment. Nonetheless, the US and German tanks stand out for their sturdy armor, firepower and survivability. But they could well face stiff competition from Russia's T-90 tanks. So far, they were able to beat Ukrainian Army's T-62 and T-72 models. While the T-90 has been a bestseller in the